Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show we're talking about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm gonna talk about the latest episode of Blindspot. A great episode. I love when they do very interesting things with a lot of these episodes. From time to time, you get them like every once in a while. This episode, 90% of the episode takes place inside the FBI building. It's kind of the whole thing of like, for when you have Patterson. Like, obviously she gets there late. Rich is kind of like, okay, the team shows up. Okay, what's the deal? Oh yeah, this is the bad guy. This is where you're at. And everyone's like, wait, really? That's all you're going to give us? It's like, do you want me to kind of go into an explanation about it? Like, no, we'll go. He's like, okay. And then Patterson shows up like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, I didn't explain anything. Why not? Did you explain this, and that? It's like, that team, they don't care about that. Like, they don't care about what we do in here. And Patterson's like, that's why we show our work and all that. And then it's just kind of like, she's so into it this episode. I love it because we get some of the explanation, but not all like the groundwork. And now we kind of get the flip side of it, kind of like, because literally we're normally with like the field team. We're not usually with the computer crowd working within the building. We're not usually with them, and obviously it bounced back and forth, but obviously we're mainly with the field crowd. So I thought that was kind of an interesting perspective for this episode in that regard, because it's one of those things of just like, I like it. It's like, oh man, look at all this awesome stuff that happened on screen that you will never get to see as the audience, because it's like, oh man, Reed, Jane, and Weller come back covered in like feathers and paint. It's like, what? That must have been something epic. Too bad we didn't get to see it. It's like, I love it. It's just so good in that regard, because there's a lot of epic stuff that happened in this episode that we won't get to see. I think the most recent show I saw do that was like iZombie. They had an entire episode like that in last season, I think. Yeah, it was. I just thought it was like super dope how that's like constructed like that. So what made this situation even more interesting is the fact is that we had Patterson randomly hooking up with some guy, and then it's kind of like, she's like, no, I'm not trying to make things get too serious between us. Obviously, we know what her history is like when it comes to relationships, so obviously she's super reluctant to take that step forward. But you remember that like near-death experience thing she had last season, that kind of like different episode in its regard too, that kind of got her, David and everything kind of got her thinking about, how she handles herself going forward, not really getting close to people. So we see her taking steps forward, but she's not trying to get into an intimate relationship because things tend to not work out in that regard. So that's why she's kind of a little cold to Lincoln. It's like, oh, no, I don't have to, you don't have to give me your number. I don't have to get your number. And he's like, really? It's just, I thought we hit. She's like, no, I'm good. And even he's kind of like, well, that's fine. So they were having fun with it. So it was also okay. But then the awkward thing of like, oh yes, Lincoln's there and she's just losing her mind. She's like, and then she's talking to him about it and everything. And then later on, what makes the situation that much sweeter, because it turns out Lincoln is actually White's nephew, and I love it. And he's just kind of like, oh, don't give him special treatment. No, never mind. Forget that. I forget I said anything. Actually, give him special treatment and stuff like that. And then later on, and he's up there kind of embarrassing his nephew. He's touching him, and this guy's great. It's like, I want you to ride this guy. I want you to be on top of him, always be on top of him. And Patterson spitting up coffee, hearing all that. It's so good. It's just awkward thing. I love later on when Rich confronts her about it. He's like, oh yeah, so no wonder you slept with him. Patterson's like, how'd you know? He's like, I didn't know until just now. He's like, I'm just kidding. It's not like that. Like, I can literally tell, because you're actually a terrible liar. I could just, kind of like, I had this sense about me when it comes to like, what was it? I forgot what the exact words he used, but basically it was kind of like, he has a sense for this sex type of stuff. And he's kind of like, oh yeah, he was really into it because it was unprofessional, and he was like, that's why he was super more into it. That's why he's kind of like, oh, why would I tell anybody about it? But like Patterson kind of balancing that, it just is kind of interesting, like how, because it was kind of sweet too, because it's like, she's like, you're not trying to take advantage of the situation. He's like, no, because it's like, I didn't know who you really were, that you even worked with the FBI and stuff like that. I'm trying to keep it low key that Director White's my uncle, because I don't want anyone thinking I'm getting special treatment. And he's like, yeah, the only reason why we had our fun was because, it's like, I thought you were super smart, you're super funny, and you're super hot. And she's like, oh, well, you always got something. It's like her getting kind of giddy about him, like complimenting her, and it's just like, Patterson, I love you, you're so awesome, dude. So I just love that, and just a constant thing of just kind of like, oh man, this, like I said, kind of doing the nerd thing of just how, like showing your work and explaining how things got to where we are. I even love White in this episode, because White, it's like, it seems like they're having a lot of fun with his character, because they've always kind of made him a dick any other time he's ever popped up. I even love the fact that he breaks news to Kurt and Reed about everything related to Tasha back in season 1. Remember how Tom from the CIA, Tom Carter, was blackmailing her, and everyone on the team was like, it's like, oh wow, y'all still didn't know about that? I guess I just assumed that was common knowledge at that point. Wasn't Mayfair the only one who really knew about that whole situation? Because I think she only told Mayfair, didn't she? I'd completely forgotten. I was like, oh man, you guys didn't know? It's like, man, and it's even Jane's there kind of rubbing, oh, I guess you just don't, how much else do you think she's hiding from us? It's like, really? I mean, I guess that's the whole point, to kind of take jabs at Zapata. So it's like, oh man, can't believe there was someone like that on our team. It's like, really? I feel like this kind of time you really shouldn't say anything at that, but I mean, whatever the case may be. I even loved it because I was curious what her explanation was going to be about the whole needle thing. I thought she was going to hide it last second or something like that, do something, but she presented it to him being like, yeah, this needle, it was going to be my way out. It's poison, in case things ever got bad. Like, that was my way. And it's like, man, you smooth talker, you. But it's also interesting too, because it's like I brought it up at the end of last episode. I was like, she's not going to do it. And this episode actually kind of flirted with it a little bit. The whole aspect of, like, I was wondering whether or not there's a part of her that's being influenced by Jane or not, because it's like she could, because Roman inside of her head was just like, do it. You don't need him. You could just make it seem like it was an accident, like there were complications. The fact of the matter is, like, in this, but she wouldn't. So there's some part of her that was actually caring about Kurt and didn't want to kill him. Like, she didn't make any excuses, but you can tell she could have. And it's just kind of like, it was just kind of interesting how she handled that. I guess she felt like this is the more efficient way, potentially. So. But yeah, like I said, going back to it, White was pretty dope of just kind of like, he's like, whoa, did you make that decision without me? And she's like, yeah, we're kind of in a crisis. He's like, yeah, well, don't do that again. And she's already walking away. It's like I said, I feel like they're kind of having a lot of fun with him and everything. But they did kind of have serious moments with him too, where it's just kind of Patterson, when the time really came down to it, Patterson was kind of like, hey, like this, we need to stop the train. But it's like, obviously, like, White and a lot of other people are saying like, oh, we need to mitigate the losses. But she's like, no, Jane and the others can stop the train. If I stop in the train, that means no one's life will be lost. And it's not like, no, you're not a bad guy. This is just one of those things. I get it. You handling this, you're the director, but that means you kind of have to handle things a certain way, and because you're worried about protocol and stuff like that. But it's like, hey, you don't kind of have to do this alone. We got your back on this situation. So that was kind of nice, that kind of serious moment, and him listening to them and everything and being excited. He's like, yeah, look at the squad. Yeah, look at them, they're doing a great job and everything. Even being like, oh yeah, like, oh yeah, you can do this with the computer, and oh no, you'll figure it out. It's just like his mannerisms in this episode was pretty dope. Like I said, because he's always seemed like such a, what is the word I'm looking for? He just seems slimy, But this episode, it seemed like we're kind of, like I said, having a little bit of fun with the character, and I thought that was kind of a nice touch. And I think that also came from the aspect of we are getting a different perspective from the episode in that regard. So I think that all kind of played with that, because also the whole point of like, oh yeah, Tasha has come into play. It's kind of interesting. I feel so bad. The lawyer, I don't know if I brought that. Did I bring that up last episode? The most recent thing I saw her in, she plays Ty from Cloak and Dagger. Cloak. She plays his mom. I don't know if I brought that up before when she popped up last episode. Cloak and Dagger hadn't aired by the time. Last time I was on, I think I'm going off it. I just feel bad because like I only learned her character's name now. I don't remember them ever bringing her character's name up before. Like Kira Evan, maybe they did, but I feel like this is the first time in the entire show I ever heard her name. But they probably said it last season, and I was just being an idiot and completely missed it. But nevertheless, that's why I kind of feel bad. It's like, oh yeah, well, it takes you being dead for me to know. So I think that's kind of messed up. But yeah, apparently there was some information on a hard drive from her. All the stuff about Tasha has gotten trailed back. All that's gotten taken back to Tasha because Kira's daughter identified Tasha. The FBI is trying to keep that low key because they don't want Tasha to know that they're on to her. And it goes back to that thing of like, so what is Tasha doing? Because like even the CIA is trying to disavow her and stuff like that. So like I said, this seems like a major rogue operation in a sense of like, It's super far off the radar with the CIA, or she's doing this so far off the radar herself alone that she just trying to get back in her good graces, like come back with a victory. Once again, I have no idea like where that's gonna fall. I've brought that up last time and I'm still kind of sitting with it this episode, so. But it shows you how wily that freaking Madeline is, coming into the FBI herself, presenting files that they already knew about. These are files that link Crawford to all this criminal stuff like that. I also love that basically after the whole first issue, they got covered in feathers and paint, that they had to sit in and talk with Madeline like that. Even she's like, am I in the middle? Did I come here in the middle of something? And they're all kind of just looking at her, just like, just get to what you came here for. But I love how basically in the end, even like everything that happened in the episode with the bombs and stuff like that was tied to her. It was like one of the dudes behind it was connected to a subsidiary of HCI. But she goes on TV at the end. It's like, oh, the information we gave was about turning, HCI into a good organization, because it's like we're weeding out all the terrible stuff that Crawford did to this company and all he did. And we turn over a new leaf. And what happened today with the FBI, they caught the bad guys and they stopped this tragedy because of our help. And so now they've kind of put themselves in a positive light. Even Jane, it kind of talks about like, oh yeah, basically making herself into a hero right underneath your noses and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, Jane kind of did the exact same thing to a certain degree. Or it's hard to say, because initially you would think like Jane's like, oh, I should actually take her advice and kind of do what she's doing. But Jane kind of already did when she stopped the bomb to the train, because everybody was celebrating her and everything. Once again, I appreciate the fact is that literally everything with the team was either through a phone or just through audio. I also love like that moment, like Kurt's driving and then like White shows up. He's like, yo, you're driving pretty fast. You in the shoulder? And Jane hangs up the phone because she's like, okay, I'd rather him focus on the road than this. And so that's what you see the entire time. And it's so good. It turns out, ultimately everything works out. There was that moment where Lincoln was doing his math and he's right. Patterson's actually checking his work. It's just like, oh wow, this, and that. And White's like, will you check his work already? I'm like, this is literally the conversation we're having about checking people's work and stuff like that. It was just kind of interesting getting that full perspective of kind of like behind the scenes in that regard, because in most TV shows and like in this kind of similar sense, it's kind of like, yeah, you usually focus on the outside action, you don't really get the inside action, but it's still pretty dope, because Rich is kind of like, yeah, we're the unsung heroes. It's usually them, the outside, people out in the field that tend to get the all the fame and glory type of situation. So I thought that was kind of pretty nice. It literally came down to the wire with the whole Jane situation. One of those things of like, yeah, this is epic stuff that you won't get to see, you only get to hear. So, but it turns out the whole search for the Book of Secrets that Rich was working on, which is very interesting, because I was wondering about that. It's kind of interesting that Rich admits that this is actually something he's been searching for years, well before this whole cash situation with Roman. Because it was just one of those elusive rumors, and now he had just added motive to go after. I mean, for one, tracking it down would be worth a lot of money, but also it has a potential cure for Jane. But obviously, Patterson doesn't want to waste time searching for something that might not be, when there's like real solutions you have to be looking for. But hey, when it was all said and done, Patterson, taking her own advice and listening to Rich. And I just love it. She's like, what's up with that face? It's like, oh, this is just me, my smug face when I just, I use it every once in a while. She's like, no, it's like you use it all the time. And Rich has got a really good smug face. But essentially Patterson agrees that like, okay, we'll work on this Book of Secret situation. We won't involve anyone else because we want to give anyone false hope or make them think we're crazy for following into something that's probably like right there on the fringe, and they won't use FBI resources because they can't let White know that they're looking into this, because that would be a whole hassle. So them working together as a team for that, I think is kind of pretty dope. So it was kind of a nice way to kind of close off the whole like, oh yeah, following the FBI team from the inside chapter. All those different recruits. I doubt we'll kind of get to see many of them, because we even know that Lincoln got transferred to the LA branch of the FBI. So I love White too being like, okay, so I want to give the most important stuff to Lincoln. So, but I know if I do that, I'm the director, so it won't look good. So I want a non-biased third party like you to tell me that he's the best, that he's better. And it's like, oh, Lincoln's good. It's like, yeah, Lincoln's good. He's better than the rest of people. That's all I heard. That's good. And just kind of moves on. So I thought that was kind of pretty neat. But an interesting thing is Roman inside of Jane's head is talking about the fact is that she's kind of getting swept up in everything. It's like, you don't want to forget what you're doing all of this for. And the fact is, she kisses and hugs Kurt when he comes to her and saying like, oh yeah, I was worried about that second option. But the fact of the matter is, it's not just you being here for me that's important. You here for other people. Because if you weren't here today, a lot of people would have been hurt or died. And so, and when she's hugging and kissing him and then looks behind him and is Roman just looking back at her, just kind of shaking his head in disappointment. It makes you wonder what part of that is that. I guess that's part of her, who she was as Remy, like before, like her subconscious kind of like attacking her back. Because I think because that's kind of showing the fact that she's not kind of being true to herself, which is like, I don't know. Because I think, like I said, I brought it up before. Like, I think it's just because Remy is having a hard time because Jane has become such an integral part of her life in this like whole facade she's trying to keep up. But it's like all that warmth and acceptance, having this family bond and stuff like that. Because I'm sure it's a very, very different family dynamic than the one she had with Shepard and Roman. Probably with Roman, sure, but definitely not with Shepard. That's a whole complicated can of worms all on its own. So there's that. So, but you see her kind of getting sucked into it a little bit. It's like, no, I can't let myself do that. Kurt threw away her poison. It's like, I wonder what would have happened if she was able to get her poison back. Like, were you too shocked that he was going to let you keep it and he was just going to keep it around and not just throw it away? Like, why would he do that? So what ends up happening is she ends up meeting with someone, and I saw her name in the credit, in the opening. I'm going to butcher her name. Is it like Hanade? Hitane, I know I'm butchering her name, Park. Like I've seen her pop up in a few things, but the thing like I kind of first remember her from is the Hannibal TV show, which is, NBC connection. What was it? Something else she popped up in. It was the Blacklist. She was a blacklister in one episode too. I want to say that might have been last season. It might have been it was either season 4 or season 5. I can't remember. I want to say probably 5, but I could be wrong. I want to say 5. Nevertheless, so that's kind of interesting. But what really got me is the fact is Kurt followed her there, and he called someone. He's like, "Yeah, I got to talk to you. It's about Jane," which is like, who are you talking to? I wonder if it'd be dope if he was talking to Avery. That'd be dope because it's like, who? Well, I mean, it could be someone else on the team potentially, but he knows something's up with Jane. She's keeping secrets. That'd be interesting. Like, we get that double whammy of like subterfuge. At the very least, he might think like, it might be his initial thought of like, oh, this is the person she gets that stuff from, that, hey, she's trying to buy another poison needle to replace the one she had before. That might be the thought process. And he's thinking like, oh, Jane needs someone to talk to or hang out with to kind of deal with everything. It's like, as her husband, I can't, maybe she'll feel comfortable talking to someone else as a friend. Potentially, we'll have to see what ends up happening in that regard. But I'm curious to see what she's getting ready for, because we did know the last thing she was going to work on is like tracking down Shepard. But it seemed like she was buying something, or at least a service or some sort, because it's like half now up front and then the other half later. So I'm curious to see what that's all about. But yeah, like I said, overall great episode, and I'm very interested to see what goes down in the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good